It was a Saturday night, November 12th, 2022. In the small college town of Moscow, Idaho, the air was crisp with the promise of late autumn. For the students of the University of Idaho, it was a weekend like any other, a time for friends, for laughter, for the simple joys of youth. The streets were quiet, bathed in the soft glow of streetlights. Moscow was a place where people felt safe, a place where doors were often left unlocked. No one could have known that this ordinary Saturday night was about to descend into an unimaginable horror. No one could have guessed that by the time the sun rose on Sunday morning, the town's sense of security would be shattered, perhaps forever. In a house just a stone's throw from campus on King Road, the lights were on. It was a typical student rental, a place of coming and going, late-night study sessions, weekend parties. But on this night, something was different. Something was lurking in the shadows, unseen and unheard. A presence was moving toward that house, a presence with a dark and terrible purpose. The town of Moscow slept on, blissfully unaware of the tragedy that was about to unfold. It was a night that would be etched into the collective memory of this community, a night that would become synonymous with a crime so brutal, so senseless, it defied all explanation. They were bright, vibrant, and full of promise. 4 young people with their entire lives stretched out before them. Madison Mogan, she was 21, known to her friends as Maddie. She was a senior, majoring in marketing, with a spirit that could light up any room. Her best friend was Kaylee Goncalves, also 21. Inseparable they were. Kaylee was set to graduate early, with plans to move to Texas. For a new job, a new adventure. They had been friends since the 6th grade, a bond that was supposed to last a lifetime. They had spent their last night together, enjoying the simple camaraderie of a Saturday out with friends. Ethan Chapin was just 20 years old, a triplet. He was visiting his girlfriend, Zana Kernodle, for the weekend. He was a member of the Sigma Chi fraternity, studying recreation, sport, and tourism management. Friends described him as the life of the party, with an infectious smile and a kind heart. He was a young man who loved life, loved his friends, and was deeply in love with Zana. His presence at the King Road house that night was a simple act of love, a weekend visit that placed him tragically, inexplicably, in the path of a killer. As the victim settled in, a new character entered, silently and ominously. It was a white Hyundai Elantra. This vehicle, first a ghost, then a suspect, was the key. Neighborhood surveillance cameras began to tell a story. Investigators collected footage and reviewed hours upon hours of footage. A pattern began to emerge. The white Elantra was seen circling the neighborhood, not once, not twice, but multiple times. It passed the King Road house. Pass 1, pass 2, pass 3, a predator casing its prey. Then, at approximately 4:04 a.m., the white Elantra is seen making its 4th pass. But this time, it doesn't just drive by. The driver attempts to park to maneuver the car into a spot. The movements are clumsy, a difficult 3-point turn. Finally, the car comes to a stop. It's out of sight of that particular camera, but its path is clear. It has arrived. The timing is chilling. Just minutes after Zana Kernodle received her food delivery. The occupants of the house are likely settling down to sleep. The neighborhood is quiet, and a killer is now at the doorstep. The silence of the night was about to be broken. Inside the house, one of the surviving roommates, identified in court documents as DM, was awakened. She thought she heard what sounded like Kaylee playing with her dog upstairs. A short time later, she told police she heard something else. A voice she thought was Kaylee saying something like, "There's someone here." DM looked out of her bedroom door but didn't see anything. She opened her door a second time when she heard what she thought was crying, coming from Zana's room. Then, she heard a male voice say something to the effect of, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." At approximately 4:17 a.m., a security camera on a nearby property picked up distorted sounds. The audio was faint, but it captured what sounded like voices, a whimper and a loud thud. Then a dog can be heard barking numerous times. It's a 13-minute window of absolute terror. DM, still in her room, opened her door a 3rd time. This time, she saw him. A figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered his mouth and nose. A man she didn't recognize. He was tall, athletically built, with bushy eyebrows. He walked right past her door. She stood there, frozen in fear, a living ghost in her own home. The figure in black walked toward the back sliding glass door of the house. DM, paralyzed by what she had just witnessed, locked herself in her room. She didn't know the extent of the horror that had just unfolded on the floors above and around her. She had seen the killer, but the alarm was not raised. Not yet. Outside, the white Elantra was on the move again. At approximately 4:20 a.m., the car is captured on camera. It's leaving the neighborhood, speeding away, heading south away from King Road. The digital trail of the Elantra became the primary focus for law enforcement. Where did it come from? Where did it go? Using a vast network of cameras, investigators tracked the car before and after the murders. To Moscow, Idaho. They followed it as it circled the King Road home. After 4:20 a.m., they watched it travel south, then loop back north toward Pullman. This was not random. The driver knew the area. The physical evidence at the scene was also telling its own silent story. On the bed next to Maddie Mogan's body, a tan leather knife sheath lay face down. On that sheath, investigators found a single source of male DNA, a microscopic clue, the linchpin. The DNA on the button snap was the killer's calling card. It could directly link a suspect to the scene and the weapon. For weeks, the public knew very little. Police released only sparse details. The community was terrified. Behind the scenes, a massive investigation was underway. They had the car description. They had the DNA. They asked the public to help find a white Hyundai Elantra from 2011 to 2016. It was a shot in the dark, and it worked. A WSU campus officer searched records and found a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra. It was registered to a PhD student in criminology. His name, Brian Kohberger. In the days and weeks that followed November 13th, a cloud of fear descended upon the town of Moscow. This was a place unaccustomed to violence, where the rhythms of life were dictated by the university calendar. Suddenly, it was the epicenter of a terrifying mystery. With a killer on the loose and no suspect in custody, the sense of safety that had once defined Moscow was gone. Students who had come to this idyllic town for an education were now afraid to walk alone at night. They were afraid to be in their own homes. The University of Idaho became a campus on edge. The Thanksgiving break arrived, but it brought little relief. Many students left Moscow and simply did not return. The exodus was palpable. Classrooms were half empty. The vibrant energy of the college town was replaced by a somber quiet. Parents, terrified for their children's safety, drove to Moscow to pack up their belongings and take them home. The university offered students the option to finish the semester remotely, an unprecedented move that underscored the depth of the fear that had taken hold. The King Road house itself became a grim landmark, a constant, silent reminder of the horror that had occurred within its walls. The lack of information from law enforcement in the initial weeks only fueled the anxiety. The community, desperate for answers and for reassurance, was left to speculate. Social media became a breeding ground for rumors, theories, and false accusations. Amateur online sleuths dissected every piece of available information, sometimes causing more harm than good by targeting innocent people. The pressure on the Moscow Police Department was immense, not just from the community, but from the entire world as the case garnered international media attention. The town was under a microscope, its grief and fear on public display. Even after an arrest was made, the scars remained. The trust that had been broken was not so easily repaired. The case forced the community to confront a new reality, one where unimaginable violence could strike anywhere, at any time. 48 days after the murders, December 30th, 2022, taken into custody at his family's home in Pennsylvania, over 2,500 miles from Moscow, the news broke like a thunderclap, relief and new questions. Who was this man, and why? He was 28, a graduate student, studying for a PhD in criminology at Washington State University. The irony, a student of criminals now accused of being one. He was extradited to Idaho, charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder, built on digital evidence and genetic evidence. The white Hyundai Elantra, tracked from Pullman to Moscow and back. Cell phone data placed his phone near the King Road house on multiple occasions before the murders. Then, ominously, it went dark during the attacks. DNA on the knife sheath at the scene. DNA recovered from trash at his family's Pennsylvania home. Police said it matched the biological father of the person who left DNA on the sheath. As of September 25, 2025, the case moves slowly through the courts. Kohberger maintains his innocence. He stood silent at arraignment. The judge entered a not guilty plea for him. Legal delays, debates over evidence, a strict gag order. The trial has been pushed back. Families wait in painful limbo. The search for justice continues. For Madison, for Kaylee, for Zana, for Ethan. A marathon of grief and patience. They wait for a trial, for a verdict, for accountability, for the town of Moscow. Healing and remembering. The King Roadhouse was demolished. The memory remains. A chilling reminder of darkness in plain sight. A long, arduous road to truth and justice.